This is Fox 13 News at 9.
The ballots are cast and the polls are closed. It's primary election night in Washington, and now the results are coming in.
Your vote setting the stage for November's general election. A new era of Washington politics is taking shape with a job opening in the governor's mansion.
I really thought long and hard about this.
Jay Inslee ending his 12-year tenure as governor. The top contenders both pushing a new vision for public safety.
I'm running for governor to fix what's wrong and do what's right.
Washingtonians must feel safe and be safe for our state to thrive.
We're tracking hot races for the U.S. House and some potential surprises in statewide positions. We have full coverage up and down the ballot, and tonight, it's time to talk politics.
We start tonight with a live look at the state capitol in Olympia, where some incumbents might be getting ready to pack their bags, while other candidates are getting ready to move in. Good evening and thanks for joining us for primary election night in Washington. I'm David Rose.
I'm Hannah Kim. We have live team coverage on all the races tonight. Fox 13's Jennifer Dowling, Nia Wong, and AJ Janival are all live at local watch parties, keeping a close eye on tonight's results.
Matthew Smith is here breaking down the numbers, giving us some insight into how the first run of ballots are breaking county by county.
But first, let's get a look at the latest in the races to be Washington's next governor. This is a big one. So we've got Bob Ferguson, Democrat, 46% of the vote. Dave Reichert, 28%. Not all the votes are in, but those two getting the check mark, and they will be moving forward.
Our Fox 13 political analysts are joining us on primary night. We have Kathy Allen, a Democrat, and Randy Peppel, a Republican. Great to see you both. Let's start over here. This is a interesting campaign, considering you had two Republicans running for the seat to move on to the general election. Randy, what do you take of the numbers you've seen tonight?
Well, I mean, in the governor's race particularly, I think Bob Ferguson not getting to 50% after massively outspending all the other candidates, drawing about 45%. That was a weak showing for a 12-year attorney general. On the flip side, the challenge by the party activists against Dave Reichert didn't really materialize. He easily wins and advances to general election.
And you're referencing the support they showed by naming Simi Bird their official candidate.
Yes, and he didn't get into double digits tonight. Wasn't expected to, but that's comforting for Dave Reichert as he moves on to the general election.
So, Kathy, looking at the numbers right now, what does this tell you for November?
Well, it tells me that Bob Ferguson's going into this not just with the lead, but with a commanding lead. And I disagree with Randy, as I usually do, because I think before you see the rest of those votes coming in, particularly at least half of the King County votes will not be in tonight, the fact is you're going to find that Bob Ferguson will be over 50%.
Let's point out that we had a very low voter turnout for this primary. Let's go to Fox 13's Jennifer Dowling. She's at Bob Ferguson's results party tonight. And Jen, have you heard yet from the Attorney General?
We have. I just talked to him one-on-one, and he's very excited. His constituents are obviously very excited about advancing to the November election, and it does, he says, come down to the competition and the election between him and David Reichert. He's very focused on that. He believes he has a very strong ground game in order to try to defeat Reichert. He said he's been to more than 35 counties in his campaign for governor so far, and he says that he has a very, again, strong ground game, which he plans to continue. And I talked to members of the state Democratic Party. They are also behind him. They were here tonight saying they throw their support behind him. So he has a lot of momentum this evening. Of course, I asked him how he would defeat Dave Reichert here in the King County and the Pierce County area, Snohomish County, where Reichert is very strong and well-liked. He said, look, we're going to continue the strong ground game. He believes he has advantages over Reichert, including, he says, his push for reproductive freedoms, reproductive rights for people. He also says he has a different public safety measure than Dave Reichert, which includes using grants or other money incentives to hire more police officers across the state of Washington and to remedy that. And so let's take a look at some of the video from earlier of all those constituents who had gathered here at the party. There's still a lot of people here, but some have cleared out since we've had that major announcement. So Bob Ferguson telling me also that he plans to, again, campaign hard against Dave Reichert and take it across the state, a statewide campaign in each and every county. Take a listen to what he had to say earlier in the night.
Now look, it wasn't easy winning this primary. We overcame the Republican State Party's Volunteer of the Year recruiting to Bob Ferguson to run for governor as Democrats in a cynical attempt to disenfranchise voters. Did that stop us? No! We defeated a $1 million PAC made up of special interests who did not like the fact that I beat them in court and held them accountable to the rule of law. Did that stop us? No! How did we do it? We did it by being the only campaign, as you heard from Gurmai, to campaign in all 39 counties.
So he plans to continue that. Also tonight, he talked about his background and his history taking on the Trump administration, to which the crowd cheered, of course, because that's what these folks here would like to see. He talked about his record. He has brought, in the past, in his role as Attorney General, more than 50 lawsuits against the Trump administration. And so he says he is best prepared to take on that administration. Again, that's what the base here wants to see as well. So still a long road ahead to November, but he says he's ready and his team will be hitting the ground running. Reporting live in Ballard, Jennifer Dowling, Fox 13 News.
Jennifer, thank you so much. And our continuing coverage picks up in Puyallup, where we find Fox 13's Nia Wong. Nia, you're at Dave Reichert's watch party. How are they reacting to him qualifying for the November ballot?
Everybody here was pretty confident throughout the evening. You know, not even 20 minutes after those first results came in, the Associated Press called this for Reichert and Ferguson not unexpected. In fact, it is what Reichert predicted when we spoke to him just before 8 o'clock tonight. Now, he did this. He made it to the next round without the endorsement of the Washington GOP. The former King County Sheriff and former Congressman telling tonight's crowd here in Puyallup that if he is elected to be the next governor of Washington, he's going to break cycles.
It's been 40 years since we've had a Republican governor, and I think people feel there is an opportunity here where we will have success in winning this year. We can bring balance to the government here in Washington State and represent all the people here.
We spoke to Reichert before and after those preliminary results came in. He was calm, he was collected, he was feeling confident, but he did admit to me that the November election is going to be more of a fight. Coming up at 10 o'clock, I'm going to have more details on that from him, as well as more details on his plans if he is elected to be the next governor. For now, live in Puyallup, Nia Wong, Fox 13 News.
Nia, thank you so much. The other big names in the race, Simi Bird finished third in the polls, and Mark Mullet finished fourth.
The two gubernatorial candidates will not appear on the ballot this November. Fox 13's A.J. Janival is live in Enumclaw for us. So, A.J., you're at Bird's results watch party. How is his camp feeling about coming up short tonight?
And they're still remaining confident. They're saying that there are still some votes that are coming in, but when you look at those numbers, it does seem like if there was any chance, which, you know, as you mentioned, there's not, it would be an uphill battle. But they are remaining confident, and they're sticking to that race that he ran. I did get a chance to speak to him about what would happen if those numbers don't show for him. He said that he fought as hard as he could. He never really wanted to be a politician, but he had a calling to do so. I also reached out to the Washington GOP today to see if they will consider endorsing Reichert after they originally endorsed Bird here behind me. I just sent that message out. If we hear back from them, we'll keep you up to date. As you mentioned, I did speak with Mark Mullet as well. He told me that he never wanted to be a bipartisan candidate. He doesn't like the back and forth between both sides. He wants to keep serving his community, but he's looking to do it in a way where both parties can work together. We got a chance to speak to both of them throughout the evening. We'll have more information and hear from them directly later in the night. I'll send it back to you guys.
AJ, thank you so much. And Fox 13 is mapping out each race and breaking the numbers down county by county.
Matthew Smith is joining us live in our other studio. Matt, are any particular races standing out to you tonight?
There's a handful that are, obviously, and we did want to start with the gubernatorial election because you guys have been putting a lot of attention on that. We are debating whether or not Bob Ferguson is going to get to that 50% mark. If we're looking at outstanding votes right now, King County, obviously, that's where a bulk of the voters are coming in. 174,000 breaking for Bob Ferguson. He is doing a 60% number in King County. So if you were to see this trend to stick around for the rest of the 42% of votes, you're looking upwards of 100,000 more votes in his direction. Reichert only pulling 20% in King County right now. If Reichert feels good about a number tonight, probably down in Pierce County, where he was neck and neck with Bob Ferguson throughout the night. 38% for Dave Reichert, just on the heels of Bob Ferguson pulling in around 40.4%. Now, Speaking of Bob Ferguson, let's take a look at that Attorney General race right now. Really a three-person race. Pete Serrano with the GOP party locked in one spot. Nick Brown, the former U.S. Attorney, locking in the other. So you actually have a GOP and Democrat ticket coming into the November. And once again, if we want to look at Pierce County, it's one of those interesting spots where Serrano was running away with this. And if we look in King County, he was outpacing the numbers that we saw with Reichert as well. So this could be a very, very competitive race. And there are a number of districts that we could look at, but obviously District 4 is one of the big congressional races that we all want to have an eye on right now. Dan Newhouse has an uphill battle because he's got a number of contenders here, but both Jared Sessler and Tiffany Smiley eventually got the endorsement from former President Trump, so an uphill battle here. But Sessler and Smiley really cannibalizing each other and allowing Newhouse to slip in there. Only 25% of the vote, not what you'd expect for somebody who is the incumbent in a race like this, but he lives to speak another day, and it looks like Sessler and Newhouse, if things continue to go in this direction, Newhouse could be on that November ballot. But again, too close to call right here. So this is one that we'll probably be keeping an eye on for the next couple of days. David?
All right, Matthew, thank you so much. Stick around. We've got much more election results ahead, including where we stand in our House races. Will the incumbents keep their seats, and who will replace Cathy McMorris-Rodgers? We're going to take a look at those numbers and what they say. That's next.
Plus, Superintendent of Public Instruction Chris Rakedahl was expected to be in a heated battle to keep his job. He will be moving forward in the November general election, and we'll tell you more on who he will be facing coming up.
And of course, I'll have a look at your forecast. We're tracking some warmer temperatures here starting tomorrow through the end of the work week. I've got those details coming up.
All right, let's take a look at the latest election results for the congressional races around our state.
Let's start in District 1, where Susan DelBene is running for re-election. And as you can see right there, handily 64%. And we don't know yet who the challenger will be because you have Orion Webster and Jeb Brewer. They're kind of neck and neck right now, both Republicans. We'll have to see where that one lands. District 2, where Rick Larson is running again. Of course, longtime incumbent there. District 2, Rick Larson is running again. So we will see him at 50% to Cody Hart, 19%. So a wide margin there. Moving on. House District 3, representing southwestern Washington, where Marie Gluesenkamp Perez is running for re-election. There you see the two moving forward is Perez there and Joe Kent. And Joe Kent is a familiar name because he ran against her 2 years ago, so they'll be facing off again. House District 4, representing Central Washington. This is a three-way battle. It was for three Republicans, and you see the numbers there. Jared Sessler, 30%. Dan Newhouse, a longtime incumbent, 25%, to Tiffany Smiley, trailing third at 19%. But so far, they have not called the two yet moving forward in that race. House District 5, where Cathy McMorris-Rodgers no longer seeking re-election, and this opened the door for many, many, many candidates. And we've got Michael Baumgartner, Republican, 28% so far getting the check mark. We don't know who the challenger will be on that one. House District 6, Derek Kilmer, also not seeking re-election. And this one is very interesting. Emily Randall, 33%, Drew McEwen, Republican, 30%, Hillary Franz, 26%. So as of right now, it may appear that those first two may go forward, but again, that has not gotten the check mark yet because it's still too close. This one's an easy one. Pramila Jayapal for U.S. House District 7, 79%, so she's definitely moving forward. Everybody else trailing way behind her. House District 8, Kim Schreier running for re-election, and she is 52%, to Carmen Goers there at 44%. She's a Republican there getting that one.
House District 10, that's where Marilyn Strickland is the incumbent. Here's Adam Smith for House District 9. Adam Smith leading. He's going to move on. And Paul Martin, his challenger, will move on as well, although we could see some changes there, I guess. There's no check mark beside Melissa Chaudhry's name, so that one's still up in the air. House District 10, Marilyn Strickland is the incumbent, and Don Hewitt will move on in the general election there. So those are your 10 U.S. House district races. But I want to bring in our political experts again. Kathy, what happened with Hillary Franz? What happened in this congressional race? Because she was doing really well up until a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that's when 1.5 million came flying out of the air with some dark money for some crypto kings that decided to go buy this race for her. And that's making a lot of problems for a number of Democrats. All of us are sitting there going, well, where did this money come from? Crypto. Well, it happens to be a national PAC that is actually putting money into people they want to actually see run and be part of the crypto team in the United States House. In all of this, I can say we're all kind of looking at it right now. I don't know that this race is actually called yet, given the fact that there's still a lot of votes out and it's close as it is. The one thing I'm looking at is that the strength of Drew McEwen is actually, that senator is going to stay.
All right, and let's bring Randy in here. And of all these races, what is the big takeaway from you, and what is the biggest thing you're surprised about?
Well, to me, the irony of the primary comes through. Dan Newhouse is the incumbent in the 4th district, is running second tonight, but he feels very good about that because he is going to be running against Gerald Sessler, a fellow Republican, in the general election. Sessler is endorsed by former President Trump and sets up a situation where Dan Newhouse, as a very conservative Republican and longtime leader in central Washington, will get all the votes that are slightly to the right of Mr. Sessler, and that's enough for victory, and he's done that in the past. So on the surprising side, once again, in the 3rd district down in Southwest Washington, you have an incumbent who is in first place in Marie Gluesenkamp Perez, but she's under 50%. And as an incumbent member of Congress, you never want to be under 50 when your opponents are adding up to over 50. That's the case there. And once again, that'll be one of the top 5 races to watch in November in the country for control of Congress.
All right, we want to get to the Superintendent of Public Instruction race. This is where Chris Reykdal is running for re-election. Of course, he's been in that office for a long time. Let's look at the numbers tonight. And Reykdal is still going to be moving on to the general election, but here are the challengers. You've got David Olson with 31%, Reed Saris with 23%. So neither has a check mark, neither has been called. Kathy, what are your thoughts on this?
I think this 40% is enough for Chris, and I think he's a 2-time incumbent. The fact is, this is a nonpartisan race. People don't run necessarily by their parties, and frankly, I think that he was able to actually stare down really thoughtful, competitive races that spent a whole lot more money than he did.
But Randy, I remember you talking about how you thought Reykdal might be in trouble because of the fact that, you know, education, the state of it right now, and also coming back from the pandemic, all of that stuff was weighing on voters, you thought. So are you surprised by these numbers?
I am surprised that he's advancing in the #1 position, but the fact is he's got 40% of the vote. As the incumbent in a nonpartisan race, if that means 60% of the people said, not you. And those people aren't going to be reacting for partisan reasons in the general election. And so I still think he's in trouble. I'm surprised at Reed Saris's numbers. He was the favorite among education reform-minded folks in the state. And he had raised a good sum of money for the position and just really didn't convert on that into votes.
All right, much more to come on all the election results tonight. We're going to cover every single one of them, but we're going to break away right now, give you a quick look at your forecast because weather changed a little bit today. It certainly cooled off. Will it warm back up? Let's check in with our meteorologist tonight and find out what's going on.